Please remember to like, share, subscribe and comment to support all of the interviews that are being uploaded onto this channel and to support the growth of it as well. Thank you and enjoy the interview.
Here's Davis. Taylor to deliver. Ferdinand to clear.
Yeah, strange game, Andy. Very quiet, the crowd. Maybe a little bit too much booze over the Christmas.
Portsmouth fans urging their team on. Pedro Mendes stands over this Portsmouth corner. Plenty of options. Primus back post! And Portsmouth lead here at Upton Park. West Ham are really under pressure here on their own patch in the opening 20 minutes. Primus will keep it in. Here's another chance. And how did that not go in from Sol Campbell?
Well, that was upon Sol before he really knew it. In fairness to Sol Campbell, that just was upon him a little bit quickly. You can see it's hooked back in by Davis and off the line by Mullins. And Sol Campbell couldn't adjust his feet quick enough to keep it on target.
Glenn Johnson. For Taylor. Davis has made a move through the middle. And West Ham, through Spector, concede a free kick in a dangerous position.
He's a little bit unfortunate here. Good play by Matt Taylor, but you can see it's a clear handball.
So many options forward here for Pedro Mendes to pick out. Campbell is up, Primus is up. Noe Pamaro's in there as well, with Taylor on the back post. Pedro Mendes to deliver for Portsmouth. It's Primus again! 2 goals, almost identical for Linvoy Primus, and West Ham are 2 down on their own patch on Boxing Day.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Linvoy.
Yeah, all good.
Thank you so much for coming on. You are a Portsmouth legend. You made around 219 appearances for the club. You featured on platforms such as Match of the Day and a number of other platforms. You're just a club legend, a Premier League, a big player in the Premier League, especially when I was growing up.
Yeah, you're showing your age now, Micah. You're showing your age.
And when Portsmouth won the FA Cup in 2008, they did the impossible and inspired so many young people across the country. So thank you for coming on.
No problem at all. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So the first question I'd like to ask you is, please tell us about your early life, growing up, and your first few years as a professional footballer.
Okay, so you might not hear it that well, but I've still got a little bit of an accent from London, from East London. When I go back to East London, it kicks in a bit more. But I've been in the countryside now. My friends say I'm in the sticks now. So, so I grew up in East London. I grew up in Stratford. I was actually born in Forest Gate Hospital, and then lived in Stratford, lived in a high-rise block of flats for 19 years, lived on the 17th floor. And East London itself was quite a diverse area, community, but there was definitely segregation, not forced, just where people congregated and communities congregated. So you'd have quite a big white community, quite a big Asian community, quite a big black community as well, but sort of in areas. And then there was a cross, and I was in the cross part where, you know, the 3 or 4 communities mixed together. So there wasn't really racial tension unless you went further afield. So I didn't really experience a racial tension personally. And, you know, with that in mind, my parents from the Caribbean were very much looking after me by not allowing me to be out to a certain time and things like that. So, which as a child you think's a bit tough, you know, but when you're a parent yourself, you realise that, you know, those parameters are there for a good reason. So anyway, I love sport. My dad loved cricket, being from the Caribbean. I didn't, because that ball used to hurt you. It's only small. If it hit you, it hurt. But I just love sport anyway. But football was the sport I was drawn to most of all. And it came because somebody scored an amazing goal on TV. Was it Ricky Villa? Yeah, I think Ricky Villa for Spurs in the cup final, and that was it. I was this: if he can do it, so can I. And then just I wanted to play organised football, but just couldn't get to a team. And then when I was 12, I started to play for a team. We were okay. And then by 13, a number of us were considered good enough to go for trials. And fortunately, I had a trial with Charlton. And it was our whole team, my Sunday team, playing Charlton's under 13s team. And from that, got asked to go back and train again. And when was that, 13? And then I tried to do maths here. I was never really good at maths, but by the time I got to 20, I'd done 7 years at the club, and in that time, I'd say that you know what the front story of football is, the glamour, the goals, the big crowds, and whatever else goes with it. But the backstage, the things that go on behind the scenes, are the things that surprise you, and you've got to adapt to it as quick as you can, or use your coping mechanism to get through whatever it takes, So there was a lot of learning, a lot of growing up, a lot of understanding, a lot of self-talk, because you might have a good training session or bad training session, and you're not sure what the manager's thinking. But overall, if you said to me that at 18 years old that I'd be a professional footballer, if you said that to me when I was 9, I would have taken that all day. Wouldn't have cared what else was going on around it, even though there was a lot of challenges, physical and mental challenges as well. But like I say, if you'd have said to me as a 9-year-old, you're going to be a professional footballer at 18, I would have definitely took that.
Thank you so much for that answer and just telling us about your experiences.
Mm.
At the age of 17, you became a father.
Mm.
And your parents were upset at the time, but how did you cope with being a father at such a young age?
Yeah, interesting. I think I just took it in my stride. It wasn't self-help books or anything like that. My wife, who is the mother of my first son, she was very mature as well, and we just took it as it came, and and we're still going strong 30 years later. So I'd love to tell you what the ingredients were, but I also understand when my eldest son, my youngest son now, he's 19, but thinking of them at 17 and being fathers, I'd be nervous and I'd be scared, and I think that's the way my parents were at the very beginning, because again, they would have seen life in a totally different way in terms of what they would have been used to, and they would have understood the challenges we would have faced, whether or not I played football or not. There was going to be challenges being faced. So I can understand their fear, but again, I think we've proved to them, not that we had to, that we're still going, like I say, today.
It really is amazing how long you and your wife have been together, and it's inspirational to young people as well, because it shows that it can work.
Yeah, and I say to some young people who who are talking about relationships, and I say, yeah, you know what? I say, we have to work at it. There's no rest. It's constantly work, and not work because it's you're trying to gain something, but it means working it. It means you've got to take care of the love in your life. You've got to, not just take care of them, but, you know, sometimes give them a pep talk to help them go again, or sometimes a little, oh, you shouldn't have done that, you know. And it's constant. And if that, sometimes it's hard, but those moments, I think, help when the good days and the bad days come, because you've been able to address things and talk about things. And please, I'm no way an expert at this. I'm telling you now, no way. Just take it as it comes, I'd say. That's what I do. Just take it as it comes.
Thank you so much. And in 2000, you signed with Portsmouth, where you are regarded as a club legend.
Mm.
So what are the 3 qualities you believe any defender must have if they want to make it to the highest level?
Wow. 3 qualities. You know what, Mike? I've never been asked that question before. That's good, man. I'd say desire, you know, desire in regards to getting out there every day. And I don't mean getting out there on match day, because match day is probably an easier day to go out because you've got the crowd, you've got the adrenaline. But what I mean is the desire to get out and train. You've just had a bad weekend. You've been involved in, you know, the defeat. You know, you may be at fault, but on Monday you've got to go again. You know, knowing that what your teammates are maybe thinking, what your manager's definitely thinking, and what the fan base are thinking. You know, so that desire. So I say desire number 1. Number 2, be prepared to learn. You know, don't think you fully understand the game. This is going to sound a bit strange, but I didn't really understand pitch management. And what that means is that sometimes during a game, you can be under a lot of pressure. So you want to take the momentum out of the other team's play by slowing the game down or saying, right, that person in that team's been really effective. Someone go and mark him and stay on him. So I never really understood that until I was 28, you know, and that's a long time in football to go on the pitch going, what do I do now? You know, do I kick it to him? You know, no, it wasn't as bad as that. But and it's because I had good players and I was learning from them, you know, and I was understanding, and that really helped me be a better player and encourage others, because I could see where I needed to be and where others needed to be, so I could help them in their game as well. So learning, and I'd say the other things, enjoy the game. You know, I truly believe that, you know, any sport, anything we do and we love doing is a gift. But I'd say in football, you know, it's a gift that millions upon millions of people can do, but there's a tiny percent that get paid for doing it, and there's even a smaller percent that play in the Premier League, you know, and so to play at any level, you know, enjoy it, because the higher up you get, there are more pressures and there are less reasons to enjoy it. And, you know, the spin about money and, you know, having all these things, that spins okay, but it's not true, because ultimately, you know, a number of these boys, I say boys, these young men, if you put a ball down anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, you know, and just say, come, let's have a kick about, they'd play. You know, they wouldn't be saying, oh, I need 10 grand to go and play. You know, they just go and play. So, you know, the heart of it is, you know, enjoy the gifts, because if you can't enjoy it, then you'll never, ever be satisfied or happy.
Thank you so much for that really sound advice. And I'd like to also just follow on to talk about your wife's mental health struggles and how that ultimately led you to Christ. Please, can you just tell us a bit about that and your journey?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So obviously my wife's story is very much our story, because in terms of mental health, because when as a 20-year-old, I got told by Charlton that I could leave the club. And for the first time, we never had the security of what the environment of football gave me. So it would affect her as well, and obviously our son. So by the time I found another club, we were in an environment where we were really happy, but financially it was tough, you know. So you had we had a stable environment, but you know, things were financially hard. So I was always looking and hoping that I'd get a move. So eventually I did get a move to Reading, from Barnet to Reading. But this meant we had to move out of the area and for the first time live somewhere where we didn't know anything about. We found a nice house and a nice estate, but we were the youngest on the estate. We were known as the footballer and his wife. And I'll give you this bit of background to my wife's health. And but we've started to realise that people only wanted to know us because of football, whereas when we were back in London, people knew us before football. So, you know, so they just treated us normally. But where we were living, it was difficult. So that made my wife really reclusive, and probably she just had our second child then, and probably that whole disruption of moving and everything like that just was an accumulation of things that led her to not being well. So that was difficult because it was a bit of a taboo subject back in the late 90s, and also people didn't understand as well. So, you know, that alongside the club wasn't doing great. We were homesick, and I felt that I'd got to a place in my career where I was looking around thinking, this is a sport I love, but I'm not happy. You know, why am I not happy? And eventually I left Reading with my wife being unwell. I ended up going to Portsmouth, and, you know, it was like life had started again. We moved down to the area, you know, felt settled. And within feeling settled, some friends invited us to church. And for the first time, I heard the message of Christ. I'd never heard the message in the way that I'd heard it at that point. And then it just got me asking questions. And I'd say in the space of 6 weeks, a few things happened that weren't coincidence, were not, how would I describe it? Were not, you know, just in my imagination. You know, there were real things. But probably the biggest thing that helped me was my teammate, who was a Christian, and me being able to ask him questions, and him being able to take the difficulty of the biblical way and make it simple in the football way. You know, so it just helped me to understand. And eventually I just thought, well, if there is a God, and I believe there is, and if there is, you know, this separation, then if Jesus did come, maybe there must be something in this. And off the back of me sort of thinking about it, I eventually just prayed a little prayer, just said, Lord, you know, I believe that I have done wrong, you know, and I am separated from you, but I want to know you, you know, and from that moment on, I haven't really looked back. It's been absolutely amazing. And don't get me wrong, there's been some tough things happening or been going on that we're still working through, really tough. But ultimately, I've got a hope bigger than what's going on, you know, in our daily lives. So I think that's the thing that, you know, allowed that moment of accepting Jesus as my Lord and Saviour has led me to where I am today.
How you doing, Linvoy? You well?
I'm great, thank you. I'm good.
We gave you the choice of song. You picked Jay-Z. Every footballer picks Jay-Z.
Yeah, well, he's a bit of a legend, isn't he? He's been around for many years. So my son, he's right into him, and he played that tune. I thought, yeah, that sounds nice. I'll have that one.
Fit with my headed goals. Right, you announced your retirement in December because of the knee. How is the knee?
Knee's good. I'm in the last stages of rehab. Sounds like a little bit like Priory, but last stages. But it's good, and the decision for me was made up. As soon as I had the operation, because I knew that to try and carry on would cause a lot of problems.
Was there any chance? As people say, actually, do you know what? You can still play, but later on it'll be.
Not really, because by the time it would have taken me to get fit, get the knee strong again, it would have been coming to the end of the season, and then to try and nick another year would have been a little bit too much. Not even I could do that. So that was it. No, that was it. Called the day then.
And have you found retirement like a massive culture shock? Or?
Not really. I think over the last probably 2 or 3 seasons, I haven't played many games, so my Saturdays have changed a lot. But the only thing is, I'm glad in a way that I didn't have to make the decision. It was made for me in terms of if you continue playing, it's going to be a problem. So that took it away from me, because I didn't want to go out there anymore and give it, the old boy can't move anymore, look at his legs gone. So in a way that helped me out.
Does it feel like retirement though, because you still are working at the club, aren't you?
Yeah.
So day to day you go in to Portsmouth?
Yeah, I'm still there. My days are literally the same in terms of do my rehab. I'm now working with the younger players a little bit with Guy Whittingham, so try to give them my experience. Yeah, so it's the same for now. But I think in July it will change. I'll start be working my longer hours in the day, which my wife won't be happy about.
Normally it's the opposite. When footballers retire, the first thing they say is, I'm driving the missus mad because I'm at home all day not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Now, how is it down there at the moment with everything that's going on? I mean, we're not going to bombard you with all the financial questions, because you'll probably go, I just, like the rest of us, I haven't got a clue. But what's morale like around the club with everything that's going on?
At the training ground, it's pretty good, because I think most people don't realise that this has been going on since the first day of pre-season. We came back and there's 14 players. We were paid late early on, so for us it's been a case of we're getting on with it. But I think at the offices it's a little bit different, because they're in it every day. They can't get it out of their system in terms of going out onto the pitch and playing. So I think for them it's different, but for the players, the performances have really warranted better results, but we haven't got that. But they've been able to just get on with it, so it's been good, and we've been isolated a little bit, and we only see the headlines when Sky.
It must be quite difficult though, because it's you turn Sky Sports News on,
I know,
more news about Portsmouth, you open the papers, more news, and it's all this like winding up orders and stuff.
Yeah, well, we didn't know how serious it was until we was watching Sky Sports News on the day, and it was like, oh, you could be shut this afternoon. It's like, oh, really? But
and frustrating. There's nothing you can do about it.
No, that's it. But like I say, the football, that's all we can take care of. Not me personally, but I've been involved in some meetings and stuff, and the younger players really feel it a little bit more, because they're not quite sure what they're going to get at the end of the month.
I find what you say quite powerful, because when I interviewed Emil Heskey and Bobby Hassel, they both said similar things as well.
Yeah.
About, like the battles that they had, whether it be with homesickness or mental health. So it's really interesting, like how when people look at footballers or celebrities, they think they have it all. But behind the scenes, it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I always say we all have different suits and uniforms we wear, but ultimately you take them off, we're just human beings, and the perception of this buys you happiness and this buys you happiness. When you're in that space, you know that it doesn't, and actually it's like, well, if this doesn't, like I say, football should, if you're in that space and it doesn't, well, what's going on? And those are the questions you probably are scared to ask, because you don't want to be seen like a strange person. But they're the questions that you'll continue to ask until, you close your eyes and never wake up again. So, it's always good. I always say, if you've got those questions, ask them, and don't go to the internet to ask them. Go to somebody that's done it. And I should say that before, I used to go to church as a kid, and that's why I didn't quite understand what I was missing. So that's why I said, when I heard the story of Jesus, that was probably the first time I'd heard it. But I did explore Buddhism as well. I did explore that. But again, I just knew it didn't fit. So the thing is that I was asking questions. I think that's the bottom line. I was asking questions, and eventually I got to ask the right people the right questions, and heard the answers that helped me make some decisions.
Thank you so much. And following on from your conversion, you established a prayer group at Portsmouth.
Yeah. It's funny. I laugh now, right? But at the time, I was so nervous about asking because it was the manager at the time was Harry Redknapp, and but up to this point, there was now 10. If we fielded all the Christian players that are at the club, there would have been 10 on the pitch at one point. So there was quite a few players who'd become Christians as well. But the reason for the prayer room was we felt that sometimes before a game, there's a lot going on in the head. So we just said, well, why don't we use that time just to pray and ask for God's, peace so that we can perform and bring glory to his name. So the chaplain, said he'd lead it. So I was like, all right then. I thought he'd ask the manager, but he didn't. So anyway, I walk down the corridor and I just say I see him and I think, I've got to ask him. And he just says, I said, Gaffer, is it okay if we, no, I said, Gaffer, like there's some Christians here. And he's like, yeah. And I said, okay, could you, is it okay if we pray before games? He's like, go on. Of course you can, no problem. And I said, well, is that it? So I walk out and it's like, oh, we can do it. So we started, there was a handful, there was some skeptical people. What are you doing this for? It's not a church and all that. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, we have about 15 in the room. And a couple of people come in who've never been in before. And then by the end of the season, we'd have, comfortably 20 people, and we'd have other members of staff coming in as well. So, and this went on for about 7 years or so. So it was real good. And from there, I suppose I now know there's a number of clubs around the country who players pray together, and I think there's an acceptance of what helps people. We talk about mental health as well, what helps people. But I think this, to get together to pray isn't, there's still a little bit of soft masculinity related to Christianity. So, when these boys do meet to pray, they know they're probably going to get a little bit of whispering or a little bit of sniping behind their back, but actually what they're doing is just showing this is who I am. This is part of me. I'm not doing it because it's the World Cup final and I'm going to have something written on my vest. No, this is me. This is my lifestyle. And that then shows those people that think it's a soft masculinity actually see that these guys are strong in what they stand for. And again, it's not to prove anything to anybody, but it's to probably change those seeds of doubt, what people perceive. Hopefully they'll change those seeds of doubt.
It was actually funny, I was reading an article and Harry Redknapp before a game with Manchester United after he saw the team sheet. Well, he had to go and join you because...
Yeah, it's good. He's good, isn't he? He's good when he says that. Yeah, he saw how good they were and said, we better join them as well. But it's funny, you know what, Micah? It's really funny because there's a number of players who I played with at Portsmouth who have written books. And 2 of them at least, there could be a third, I'm not sure, but 2 of them at least have mentioned that prayer room, and they're high profile players and they didn't have to, they could have written just about the FA Cup final or, whatever else, but they chose to. So, you just don't know what impact, it had But like I say, we weren't doing it to say, here, look, there's a badge. You know, we're the best. We look what we did before games. It was more, we think there's a need, so let's fill that need. So it had an impact on Harry, as you mentioned, and other players too.
Thank you so much. And following on from that question, Tony Adams regards you as one of the greatest Portsmouth players that ever played for the club. What are the 3 toughest matches you played in during your time at Portsmouth, and why?
Wow. You know what? There's a few. Let me give you the obvious one. And I say obvious for Pompey fans. It was Leyton Orient at home in a cup. We got beat 4-1. We were the championship team. They were like League Two, and they hurt us. Absolutely hurt us. And it was tough because I suppose before my Premier League days, I played in teams where some boys had like a lot of effort but not enough skill. Some boys didn't have the skill but a lot of effort. The other way around. So it had a lot of skill, not much effort. And that game really hurt because it was like, oh, is this it now? Is it going to be like this all the time? So I'd say Leyton Orient, probably Arsenal in the Cup, FA Cup. We honestly, before this game, we thought we were going to beat Arsenal. We really thought we were going to beat Arsenal, right? Because it might have been the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and it got moved to a Saturday night for BBC, or Sunday night, might have been a Saturday night. And I'm not joking, I think we were 4-0 down at half time. And I remember walking off the pitch, and I said to the ref, look, if you want to call it off now, you can, because we're not going to come back. They're probably going to score more goals. So if you want to stop the game now, we're ready. But we couldn't get near them. We just couldn't get near them. And one more tough one. So they're sort of blurred. You forget. You know what? You realise when you go, like, because I haven't done it for a while now, but I used to go out and share my testimony with churches, and people will remember your best bits, and and you're a better player today than you were when you played, because everyone. So now I'm thinking I can't remember no bad bits. But no, I have got one more. My debut for Portsmouth was Sheffield United away. We were 1-0 down, and Sheffield United got a cop end, big, like loud. So we were defending that end, and I was playing centre back, and but I was playing left side centre back. So the left back got beat. The guy crossed it in, and it's coming in on my left side. Now I'm right footed. All I do with my left leg is stand on it. And the ball was coming into the area. The goal's behind me. And in my head, I said, do not swing at the ball. You're better off just trying to block the ball. But as I said, do not swing, my leg went back all on its own. And it went for the ball, and the ball came off my toe and went straight into our goal. So on my debut for Portsmouth, I scored. We lost the game 2-1, by the way. I scored Sheffield United's winning goal. So, yeah, it wasn't a good way to start my Portsmouth career. Good thing it finished differently.
And what are your favourite hobbies outside of football?
That's really good. Favourite hobby? I won't call it a hobby. It's definitely spending time with my family, because I've missed a lot, like a lot in here, because football really consumes you. So even though I was with them in body. I probably wasn't with them in mind. So, any opportunity to do things as a family, I'd say we take. So if there's anything personal to me, I don't know if you call this a hobby, I love listening to podcasts regarding space and technology and things like that. And, I suppose reading is another thing I enjoy. I find it difficult, just sitting still and reading, but I find it difficult, but I do enjoy it once I'm in it. But those are the main things I'd say.
Thank you so much for that. And another question I'd like to ask to you is, what are the three greatest challenges you experienced over the course of your life? And what lessons did you learn from these experiences?
Okay. All right. So the first one I'd say was rejection. Being on the end of that, and as a 20-year-old and not having a children, and how that impacted on me going through till I was about 28, 29, till I became a Christian, was really, really hard, because it affected me in football and out of football. Any form of rejection, I liken that to a threat. It's like a threat to me, a threat to my family, a threat to who or whatever. So I'd always be cautious. And what did I learn from that? I think at 28, 29, I learned that, I am more than a footballer. Linvoy plays football. Linvoy is not a footballer, and once I got to that space, because I knew, through the Bible, and understanding who I was, or trying to get a handle on who I was, then rejection didn't affect me the way it used to affect me. So with that, what did I learn was that actually rejection doesn't define you, because they didn't reject Linvoy Primus, they rejected the footballer who plays, so that was the first. Second thing, working through my wife's mental health, I think, because again, not really understanding it. But what, fast forwarding, 20 odd years now, what I realise now is that, again, by stumbling and bumbling along, the things we were doing at the time are what people are doing now. So the only thing I would say in all of it is that just loving her through it was the only thing I could do. But that's what they talk about now. It's helping, being there, loving your neighbour, listening to your neighbour, looking out for your neighbour. So that's another thing I've learned. And finally, I think the transition out of football was steady, bumpy, and challenging, even though I was doing so many things. And what I've learned through that, we haven't got time to go into it in a big way, but what I've definitely learned through that is Linvoy needs to look after himself to look after others. And the energy that Linvoy needs sometimes is rest, sometimes is doing something for him. But I didn't know that until coming through, into the lockdown stage and things like that. So they're the challenges, and what we've learned from them hopefully will help us to help others.
Thank you so much for that. And in terms of your contribution to society, you were awarded an MBE with your services to the community and also in football. So what advice would you give to young Christians that would be watching this and want to use their gifts to serve and develop their own communities?
Yeah, I think, there's always going to be a need, but I can only talk about it from my experience of, be passionate. If there's something that you're passionate about, you can serve there. You can just be you there. I think the confusion I had was that I thought I had to be somebody else at some other time to please people. But once I realised that I have got a passion, my passion is to help people, but I can't help everybody. Where can I help? Oh, it's the world of football. Oh, now it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like I'm serving. It just feels like I'm just doing it. So I'd say that to any young Christian, you might want to go and be a top professor, or the top scientist, top doctor, which is great. Go for it. But when you're in that environment, look to the people to your left and to your right, because they need Christ. And you're the ones in that place that may be able to give them a fragrance of Christ or the whole gospel of Christ. So, whatever your dreams are, if you go for it and you get to where that may take you in terms of what you think it is, but you're there because the Lord's put you there. But look to your left and look to your right, because there's a picture I have that, if it's coming down, I can't give it back up. There's no, I can't, it's impossible. It's like, it's give it to me. And it's like, oh, if I score 5 goals to you, Lord, that will bring you glory. It's like, no, it won't. Just give it to somebody else, So it's like, he gives it to me to give to somebody else, and that way as well, you can look at yourself and say, right, I'm in a position, I'm a little bit nervous. Why am I nervous? Am I safe, Lord? Am I safe or am I scared? Because sometimes you look around you and things can be really scary. But when you look back up, you can say, no, actually, this is, I'm safe with you, Lord, because this is your promise. This is your thing. But when I look here, I don't like it. But this is your promise. So by the time I look back here, I'd be like, I don't really like it, but I'm okay. I've got your promises. So, yeah, I just say, if you've got dreams to be and do, go for it, because that's probably in your DNA. But when you're on your journey there, look to your left and look to your right, because they're the people that need to hear who Jesus is and what he done for us.
Thank you so much for that. And I was reading an article from Goal. Apparently, there's been a huge lack of black managers within Premier League and the Football League. So what do you believe that the Football League can do as a whole, whether it be for the grassroots, going to professional football, to encourage more black managers to come through?
Yeah. I know there is a lot going on behind the scenes to address this. I definitely know that. And I just think that you probably won't see the changes for maybe 5 years or so, 5 to 10 years. You'll see more black managers, more black coaches, men and women's game. But I think the wheels are in motion. That's if you'd have said 4 years ago, what do you think? I'd be like, I don't know. I ain't got a clue, because we're in the same place. But there's more people now who are aware in a way that are working behind the scenes, who are decision makers than they were before. So the change is coming. I just think people like Darren Moore, Chris Hughton, even though he's not involved now, Nuno when he was involved, I think, and obviously Paul Ince now as well, I think they will continue to give other coaches the hope that there is a way, and we've seen it in other countries, haven't we? Senegal in particular, Aliou Cisse, I played with him at Portsmouth, and to know he's now, the winner of the African Cup of Nations is quite amazing. But you'd think, would he get a chance in the UK? So that's where you got to ask yourself, well, will it change? How will it change? It will, but I think it's going to come from within before it comes from, a manager doing well in another country.
Thank you so much. And the last question I'd like to ask you is, you do amazing work for Christian in sport with professionals. So I wanted to ask you, please tell the audience a bit about what you do for Christians in sport, and particularly, are you working on any new projects that either the audience can support or look out for, or even get involved with?
Yeah. So, well, let me start with the getting involved with or look out for. Christians in Sport got an amazing website, and there's lots and lots going on. So much I don't even know. So because if I saw that, my brain would melt. So there's too much. But my role within that in the organisation is to support, like you said, the Christian footballers or players who are on a bit of a journey in terms of exploring the Christian faith, and also, to help players as well. When I say help them, they might not be interested in any form of religion, but they just might need a shoulder to lean on, or some advice to take in that thing. So I would call myself a mentor for those guys. And what's lovely about it as well, even though I've become the focal point, what I really enjoy is that they speak to each other peer to peer. So I'm not actually the one giving the advice as a man that played, 20 years before they played. So when they're talking to each other, and they're from different teams, there's different things going on, but the great thing is, like I say, that this young men want to play football and want to enjoy it. So I'm some days I think to myself, well, how am I doing this, Lord? How did you get me on this? Like, how did this happen? And some days I'm like, just like, this is amazing, So it's a real blessing to be able to do this. And, and the nice thing again is that I truly believe that there'll be 4 or 5 of these guys that I've been working with, and there's others doing other things with other ministries, that the 5 or dozen or so that I'm working with will be able to do what I'm doing back down to the next generation. That'll be the dream for me. Just seeing guys looking out for their teammates, and and praying for them, advising them, supporting them, encouraging them, whilst being the best they can be on the pitch. So yeah. So it's a privilege. It is a privilege.
Thank you so much for an exceptional interview, Linvoy. I'm just been ecstatic about interviewing you.
Bless you, Mike. Thank you so much, Alex. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, take care.